Welcome to the Breakthrough Success Podcast, helping you achieve that breakthrough you've always been looking for in your business. And now your host, Mark Guberti.
Hello and welcome. I am your host, Mark Guberti, and this is the podcast for marketers and small business owners who are looking for the breakthrough for their businesses. I'm very excited about this show. For episode 69 of the Breakthrough Success Podcast, we are going to talk about building the rich and relaxed business of our dreams with our guest, Penny Comans. Penny runs a six-figure business and has been published in over 25 magazines and media outlets. After making over $15 million in sales over 16 years, she's discovered how to easily make sales, and she teaches others how to do the same. She works with motivated female entrepreneurs to give them the confidence to live a life they love through enhanced sales in their businesses. And now it is my pleasure to welcome Penny to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Penny, it is a pleasure to have you on the Breakthrough Success Podcast, and I really look forward to diving into building that rich and relaxed business. But before we do that, I'd like to get some backstory. So why is the rich and relaxed business so important for you?
I think it's really important on lots of levels, but one, personally, I love to be outside. I love to ride my bike, swim in the ocean, go paddling or surfing and go running. And so for me, being able to create that lifestyle meant that I wanted to have a business that allowed me to go outside when the sun shines and not have to sort of cram it in early morning before getting in the hustle and grind of traffic to drive to work, and then, doing it at nighttime in the dark. So that was my personal driver, was to be able to set my own timetable so that if it's sunny outside or the waves are good, I can go for it and I don't have to be accountable to someone else. The other thing that's really striking to me is the amount of people that are having panic attacks, going on stress leave, overeating, obesity due to stress, and generally driving themselves into the ground to make enough money to either put a roof above their head or kind of keep up with the Joneses, as they say. And I really don't think that is necessary, to have to work all the hours under the sun and half of them under the moon to make the money that you want to live now and then have detrimental effects on your health later on. So for me, having that rich and relaxed lifestyle is, sure, not just playing outside all day long, but making money with the time that you've got and not working longer hours to make more money. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And thank you for sharing with us what that rich and relaxed business means to you. But when some people hear about living a rich and relaxed type of lifestyle, most people believe they can either be rich or relaxed. So how do you have both?
Yeah, great question. And most people think you need to get rich first so then you can be relaxed. Or otherwise, if you're relaxed, then you're not making any money. So, and I truly believe that you can have both. How you go about having a rich and relaxed lifestyle is by enhancing your sales. So for me, if you have a business, I'm a strong believer that if you don't have sales in your business, then you don't really have a business. You just have a pretty website and a lot of things that you talk about. And that might sound really harsh to all of your listeners, but it is so true. And it's so true for two main reasons. Number one is sales coming into your business, obviously, is money flowing in, which means that money can flow out. It means that if you're making great sales, it means you don't have to be in your business all the time. You can actually create the wealth that you want to have in the time that you've got. And the other thing that really is important that most people sidetrack, they just see sales as money, and that's why so many people don't really like to talk about sales because they have hang-ups on money. But the other thing that having sales into your business does is it gives you confidence. So every time someone buys something from you, whether it be a service, a product, it makes you feel like, yes, I've got this. This is right. I'm doing something right. And it causes that joy. And that joy then creates more motivation for you to move forward, to keep on your path. And if you don't have those sales in your business, you can end up getting into the overwhelm. You're like, oh, well, no one's buying anything from me, so maybe I'll try this. And you go down that rabbit hole. And then you're like, oh, well, that didn't work, so maybe I'll try this. And you go down this rabbit hole. And all of a sudden, you're in this huge place of overwhelm. Oh, well, I'll try this. Oh, well, I'll offer them that. Oh, well, I'll give them this. I'll offer that. I'll give that discount. And that's what causes a lot of busy hours and a lot of overwhelm and takes away the relaxed feeling. Because when you should be sitting on the couch with your loved ones watching Netflix, for example, your mind's constantly thinking, oh, well, if I give them this or I try that, or I should be doing this. And it steals away from you. Where in reality, if you had really great sales skills, and not everyone's born with them, so that's totally fine. If you learn great sales skills and really learn the online space or the face-to-face space, wherever you want to dominate, then it makes life a whole lot easier.
And I really find that overwhelm situation very interesting because you mentioned how like we could be thinking about other things where we're supposed to be with our families. And I feel like if we put in too much busy hours when we're with our families, we're thinking about work. And when we're doing our work, we're thinking about our families. So eliminating the overwhelm is obviously a big priority for eliminating that lifestyle that I just described. And you mentioned it, we juggle so many different tasks. I mean, some of them just building an email list, new offers, making sales, some of the things that we just have to juggle. So we talked about overwhelm, and I wonder if you could go a little deeper into how we can avoid getting overwhelmed by all of these things that we have to juggle.
Yeah, good question. So what I usually work with my clients is outsource as much as you possibly can. And in your embryonic stages of your business, that's not possible because a lot of people are like, well, I need the sales in to be able to outsource it. So my key thing is to outsource as much as you possibly can. And if that's not possible and you're taking a step back and you're very early on in your business, I want you to focus just on the things that are going to make you money. And I call them sales producing hours. So much like eating, I mean, I hate peas. Peas are disgusting. If they get served to me at someone's house, I eat them first, right? And then you finish on the nice stuff. So if you don't like sales and you feel, you come out in a cold sweat or you're not quite sure what to do, then start with that. Put your focus on that, because at the end of the day, that's the thing that's going to make you the money. And then all the other stuff is nice to have, right? And to kind of stop the overwhelm and the nice to have is to focus on one platform. I know when I first started out, I thought, I'll do Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. I didn't even venture into Snapchat. Then someone said, Pinterest is really good. There are a million platforms out there that you can be present on. And that I find causes a lot of overwhelm for people. They want to be in everything and everything to everyone. Pick one. People will follow you on one if you provide really great content and really great value and do it really well. You don't need to be everywhere. There are 7.5 billion people on this planet, and you just pick one platform and that will help you with the overwhelm. The other thing is to get some great automation into your sales system. So if you are doing a process more than once, then try and find a way to automate that. There's loads of platforms out there that you can use that will make it, your email list automation, or perhaps prime example, when people come into my Facebook group, they fill out a questionnaire. At the moment, Facebook doesn't have a way of being able to capture that into a spreadsheet. So, I screen grab it, and then we need to manually enter that. So we're looking at a system of being able to flow that a lot easier and try and use an API or some other way of doing that. So if you're doing anything more than once, always try and automate it. There will be a way. There always is. Focus on one platform to reach your audience where they hang out the most. And then the third tip I would like to say is focus on one thing. So as you said, we're trying to grow our list. Is it that you're trying to grow your list? Focus on that. Don't focus on challenges and and media and everything else, if you want to focus on growing your list, then pick one way and go for it and do it really, really well. If you want to put your offer out there, create one offer and put it out there strong and steady and really confidently. What I see too often is people have 30 different ways that you can work with someone, 30 different platforms that you can get information from them, and it's just confusing. People don't know where to go, so they don't go anywhere. They go with someone who has one offer and does it really, really well. Now, I'm not going to say that that's your offer forever, but just do it really well and then move on to the next thing. And that way you'll be able to put 100% focus into it, 100% effort, and it will execute really well. I think if you're a bit of a creative, and most entrepreneurs are, you'll be like, oh, but what about this idea? And this is why I came into this business, so I could create this, 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 and this. So if that is you, get a big sheet of paper and write down your ideas and put them in a folder for later. And then once you've executed that one sole idea, thought, process, product, service, whatever that might be, then go back to your folder of ideas and pick another one and carry on.
Penny, thank you for sharing with us how we can avoid getting overwhelmed, as all these tasks just seem to cloud around us. And one of the things that you're really good at, as I mentioned earlier, is that you are really great at generating sales, and you teach other people how to get those consistent sales. So with that in mind, how are we able to see these consistent sales for our businesses that allow us to live that rich and relaxed lifestyle?
Yeah, good question. I get asked that probably, 30 times a day. Everyone wants to have consistent sales. So I think the first thing to remember is that any big business doesn't have, that perfect graph where you start at zero and you just keep cruising up. There are going to be troughs, highs and lows, right? So it depends whether your product's seasonal or your service is seasonal. It depends on lots of different factors. But if you want to be, you only need to look at like the stock exchange, and you can see that it's constantly been growing, but there are pitfalls, highs and lows throughout that. So know that some weeks are going to be dire and other weeks are going to be great. So when you've got a great week, don't expect to replicate that the next week, okay? Your consistency in sales comes from your consistent and persistent action. So generally, if you're going through a really good patch of sales, then don't look at what you're doing right now, look at what you did 30 days ago, 60 days ago, and 90 days ago, because that generates what you did 30, 60, and 90 days ago is what generates that interest right now. So when you've got a peak in sales, I want you to look back and see what drove people to you, to your services. Was it emails? Was it nurturing? Was it a freebie that you gave away? Was it a podcast that you were on? Whatever that might look like, how is that flowing into your sales end numbers? And then once you start to recognize what is causing these uplifts, you can replicate them. And you can just rinse, repeat, and replicate, which is really important to keeping that consistency. As soon as you drop off the gas, much like driving a car, you'll slow down. And so what I often see that causes that roller coaster effect is people will have a really great month in sales or a really great week in sales. I've had a client that signed 87,000 in 3 weeks, which she was just over the moon about. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, I've done this, I have to do it again. And huge amount of mindset stuff came up for her. And she didn't kind of know how to continue. And dropped off the gas. And so when you drop off the gas, then of course your sales are going to slump. And they might not slump straight away. It might be a bit of a lag, that 30, 60, 90 days. And then all of a sudden you're in this action zone, you've got no sales, and you're like, what is going on? What happened? So know that being persistent and consistent will keep your consistency in sales. And then the second point would be to expect some ups and downs and be okay with that, and look at how your sales are projecting, not just on a weekly or monthly basis, but how you've been traveling through that, I guess, sales cycle. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. Penny, thank you for sharing with us how we're able to get those consistent sales. And I feel like one factor in getting sales is with our products and services, the way we price them determines how many sales we get. I mean, it's easier to sell a consultation session for like, let's say, $50 an hour than it is for like $1,000 per hour, assuming all other things are equal. So how do you recommend we price our products so that we are able to maximize our sales and also our revenue that we generate?
Yeah, good question. So on the outset, it might seem easier to sell a $50 consulting session, to use your example. And it might seem like it's going to be a bit harder to sell a $1,000 one. But you need to sell 20 $50 consulting sales to get to that $1,000, where you only need to sell one to get to that $1,000. So it's the old saga of volume versus value. So if you think about, say, your conversion rate is 50%, which is pretty good for someone who's new into the industry, then you would need to have 40 people look at your consulting service, right? You'd need to attract 40 people and convert 20 of them into calls. Where with the $1,000 product, you'd only need to attract 2 people and convert 1 into the $1,000. And this is where the difference between the rich and relaxed, or the overwhelmed and crazy overworked, comes in, because you want to have if you've got a sales team that can take all those calls for you and can answer them and do all the customer service part of it, then sure, you can sell those $50 consulting hours if they're individuals. If you don't, then I would definitely say that it's better to hold out and have the faith that one, that those 2 people that are attracted to your $1,000 offer will actually buy one. And that saves you a whole lot of time. But I think around pricing your item, it's important to not think about it's important to think about how you want to get to your monthly number that you want to hit. But it's also important to think about the person's journey, or especially for a service, like how are you supporting that person? And would one session be enough? Or are you going to spend, 30 minutes of that session with them and then another 15 minutes convincing them that they need to have a second $50 session with you? And if you're going into some place and you're doing consulting hours, is it that you get them to pay for the project to completion, or you're constantly having to, sell more hours to them, which can kind of cheapen your service, right? Where if you sell them a $1,000 package, then you know that they're going to go from, no clients to fully booked, or from from overweight to shedding 12 kgs, whatever that might look like for you and your business. So I really want you to think about how you can be in service to your customer versus whether it's easy to sell or not. If you're being really in service to your customer, then it's going to be easy for you to sell at whatever price. In saying that, there's definitely a place for low ticket items. If someone buys a low ticket item from you, they're about 82% more likely to buy again from you. So you definitely want to get them in the door with a lower ticket item, but that should just be viewed as a warming tool, something to pour straight back into marketing to attract more leads, and then the higher ticket, and it doesn't have to be in the thousands of dollars, it just has to be around their solution and how will you best serve your clients. And then that's when sales becomes in service to people and not just about the money transaction.
Penny, thank you for sharing with us your advice on how we price our products. And I mean, with the consultation example, you got to get 20 sales for the $50 one. That's 20 hours versus the 1 hour for the $1,000 one. So that was definitely a very valuable insight. And one of the things that you've mentioned on your blog is that you turned your dream around. Everything started to go right when you hired a coach. And I'm wondering if you can go into detail about that type of investment, how we can find the right coach.
Yeah, that's a really good question. and a bit of a backstory is I've done 18 Ironmans and over 40 marathons, and for every Ironman race that I entered, which was, an $800 entry fee, I would not, plus travel, plus accommodation, plus all the training and the nutrition and everything that goes with it, and the kit, I would never, ever, ever have considered entering an Ironman, which is only one day of my life, without having a coach on board, to help me with my training. And I also go and see a nutritionist to make sure that I'm, fueling my body in the right way and that I'm not going to throw up halfway through the run. And I also go and see a sports psychologist to make sure that my head is completely dialed in, because it's a long day, right? And Ironman's, a 2.6 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and a marathon. So 26.2 mile run. So you have to have your head dialed in. Yet when it came to business, I thought, I'll download that. I'll look at that YouTube video. That's how, those people are doing it that way. I like how that looks pretty. And just tried to cobble all these things together. Yet this was the thing that was creating my livelihood. This business was putting a roof above my head, and I was trying to fly solo, where something that is a complete luxury item and, a personal pursuit, I had all this support around me. And it was just one day, and I just thought, oh my God, this is crazy. Why have I not got a coach for my business, or a mentor, or a consultant, or someone to show me the ropes? Clearly, I'm not the first person in the world to set up an online business, so why am I trying to battle it out on my own? And that's when I had a mentor, and then I hired for a couple of hours, and I thought, this is actually really good. And I had a bit of a search around the internet, and this woman kept popping up in my world, and she kept saying a lot of things that resonated with me. And she was kind of leading a lifestyle that I really admired, and I thought, this is good. I didn't act on it straight away. I hummed and hawed for a good 6 to 8 months, and it ended up costing me about $15,000 more, because I mucked around for so long thinking about it, which was ridiculous, because it actually cost me that in the investment with her, but it also cost me that in lost sales and lost business and lost motivation and lost enthusiasm. So that was kind of my journey to hiring someone. I've never looked back. I've invested about $70,000 in myself this year. Next year, I've already entered a mastermind and have a one-on-one coach, and I wouldn't be without it. And the great thing is I then get to pass that on to my clients. And so all the knowledge that I gain from working up, I give back down. So I think that's really important when you are in the entrepreneurial space, is to work with someone who has already done it before you, and is really killing it in your space. So I really want you to look at that, because they're going to be able to share valuable knowledge with you. So the traits that I would look for if you're looking for a coach, which is part of this question, is find someone that resonates with you, either someone that you really admire and think, yeah, that's great, or someone that really stirs you up, because often someone that stirs you up is the kind of stick that you need behind you. You don't have to be friends with your coach. It's not like you're getting a best mate. It's someone that you admire and someone that you really want to be like, I guess. The other thing would be to make sure that they're really killing it in the space that you want to be in. So if you're in nutrition, then, and you want to build a nutritional business, then go with someone who has got those skill sets and that you really admire. And then the other thing is I would not worry about the investment at all. I can say that with confidence now, because I've been through the sort of cold sweats that you get when someone tells you what the investment is to work with them. And it always pays off. It absolutely always pays off. No matter what you invest, it will always pay off. I think the worst return on investment that my girls have ever got is every dollar they've invested with me, they got $4 back. So in the time that we've worked together. So, and I know that to be true for my investments with my coaches as well. So it's really important that you don't just see it as this cost, you actually see it as an investment in yourself. I often say to people, you go to university when you're I was 16 the first day of university. Most people are 18, 19. They go to college or university. You pick a course that you think you like. Probably you're good at it at school. And you kind of put it all on student loan. You absolutely have no problem whatsoever. You're so young, you don't actually realize just how many thousands of dollars you're racking up and how much it's going to take to pay back. And you have no care in the world because you know that you're going to come out a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, whatever. And yet, as an adult, we're all very, very hesitant about investing in ourselves and thinking, I can get it done myself, and don't have that surety. Instead, I would like people to see that investing in themselves in a business and in their own personal development is way more important and a much greater return than it was when you were 18 going to university.
Penny, thank you for sharing with us your thoughts on investing in a coach and some of your experiences. And you teach people and you also coach them on living that rich and relaxed business and lifestyle in general. So in your experience with coaching people and engaging with a lot of people through emails and social media and other things, what do you believe holds most people back from living that rich and relaxed business of their dreams?
Ooh, that's a good question. The thing that holds people back the most is their mindset. They really don't have faith in themselves that they can do it. A lot of the times we've seen our parents going, money doesn't grow on trees, or you have to work hard to make it in this world, which is not entirely true. You need to work effectively. It doesn't have to be hard. It just needs to be effective. And so what holds people back a lot of the time is their own belief and their own ability. The other thing I see people being held back by is not being able to take that leap. They need to know all of the steps beforehand. And while they're trying to work out all the steps, other people in the industry have completely accelerated past them, which puts them on the back foot. And then I think you need to invest before you're ready, so that there's nothing like having your back against the wall to make yourself really work hard. So often you need to invest and know that, and just have complete faith that it will work out in the end, because you will make sure it works out in the end. So those are the things that I see people being held back with the most. The other thing is technology. A lot of people don't really want to venture into technology. They still sit in an old business model of needing to meet people face to face, and which is a real hindrance. It just means that they can only work with the people in their immediate vicinity. And then the other thing is, kind of going back to one of the questions you asked me before, that keeps people stuck, is pricing themselves too low and just thinking about the short term and not the long term. So the $50 an hour consulting, they get stuck in this trap of working and trading dollars for hours, instead of thinking about how they can service their customer in a much larger package. Which means they only need to, sign such a small amount of people. To make $100,000 a year, you only need to sign 10 one-on-one clients at $10,000, right? That's easy. That's 20 conversations versus like thousands and thousands and thousands of $50 an hour products. So those are probably the three things that I see people get the most stuck with or holds them back.
Penny, thank you for sharing with us some of the things that you believe hold people back from living that rich and relaxed business and lifestyle. And I'd like to transition to a question that I love asking people because it produces a lot of different answers and a lot of powerful lessons. So what is one big challenge you have faced in your journey and a powerful lesson you learned during that challenge?
There's been lots of challenges, but usually, like in the moment, you think that the world is going to crumble around you, the sky is going to fall in, but when you reflect back on it, you're actually like, okay, that wasn't massive. So I guess that's the number one thing, is to realize that it's a season, it's not a lifetime. So things will get better. But I think the biggest lesson I had was my grandmother was a massive influence in my life. She really looked after me as a child, and she gave me huge amounts of opportunity and inspiration. And she passed away quite suddenly. She was an older lady, but still it was a very short sickness that she had. And I'm an only child of an only child, so I was looking after her and kind of dealing with that. And I had one big client, and that client, it dropped me via text message the same day that she passed away. And I think the valuable lesson I learned from that was that business will come and go, money will always flow, but you never get time back again. Never, ever, ever do you get time back again. So you must spend time with your friends, family, loved ones when you can, and know that the money is coming to you. And even if, you have all the millions in the bank, if you lose your loved ones, it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. So I think that was the biggest lesson, was that business and money will continue to go on, but you really do need to be able to drop everything and be with the loved ones in the time of need. And I guess that comes back to our conversation earlier about, sitting on the couch and you're thinking about, I should be writing a sales funnel, for example. Forget about the sales funnel, because the time that you're spending with your family on the couch watching TV or playing a board game or whatever it looks like is really, really valuable. You'll never get that Saturday night back again, but you'll always have the opportunity to make more money.
Penny, thank you for sharing that challenge you faced and the powerful lesson you learned. That is a really powerful story. Thank you for sharing that with Breakthrough Success listeners. I really appreciate that.
No problem.
And one of the things that I do in addition to interviewing people for the Breakthrough Success podcast is that I'm a big bookworm, and throughout all my interviews, I ask people for a bunch of their book recommendations. So, Penny, what are 3 great books that would have a big impact on Breakthrough Success listeners?
Oh, wow. There's so many great books out there. I think for all the women listeners, The Confidence Code by Katie Kay and Claire Shipman is fantastic. It's all about the differences between men and women and their ability to feel confident in different situations. So I would really recommend that book. And also for the male listeners, if you've got any little girls in your family, I think it's really important to understand how we approach things differently and have respect for that and support them. The other great book I really enjoyed is The Prosperous Coach by Steve Chandler and Rich Litvin. I think that's a really great book if you are looking at any sort of consulting or coaching, or being able to sell your services, a service-based industry over the phone. There's some great tips in that one. And then I guess around mindset, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Have you read that one?
I have not read that one, but literally the last person I interviewed made that same recommendation.
So it's a fantastic book. It's all about your limiting beliefs, but it's not written in a real woo-woo way. It's actually written in a way that you can relate it to your own life very, very easily. He gives very live examples. It's written with story and science, which I really love to have that combination, because it takes what could be quite a dry subject and actually brings it to light. I think it should be recommended reading for everyone kind of at the age of 13 at school. It's a fantastic book. It's only 2.5 hours to get through it. And so it's a fairly quick read and something that you can dip in and out of all the time.
Penny, thank you for sharing those 3 great book recommendations for us. And for Breakthrough Success listeners who want those links, they can find those, the show notes, and a little more at marketberry.com/E69. Before we go, and before we even get to the point where you let us know where we can find you, I've asked you a bunch of questions throughout this episode, and I'm wondering, what is one question you believe we need to be asking ourselves more often?
what am I doing today to generate more sales in my business?
That is a really great question. I mean, there are so many ways to answer that question, and they're all going to give you the idea of what are your true priorities. So thank you for that. That's a really great question.
Yeah, thanks. No worries. It's something that you need to ask yourself every single day, because if the answer is not sure, well, you know what's coming down the track. You're going to be going down that roller coaster. So it's that consistency and persistency that is so, so important. No matter what industry you're in, what your business is, what your service is, what your products are. It always has to be consistent and persistent.
Penny, thank you for sharing that great question with us and for sharing all of your great insights throughout this episode. And before we close the doors on this episode of Breakthrough Success, for all the listeners wondering, where can we find you on the web?
That's really easy. It's just pennycommins.com. So pennycommins.com.
Penny, thank you for sharing all of your great insights. Those will all be at markgilberti.com/E69 with the show notes. It was a pleasure to have you on the Breakthrough Success podcast.
Thank you very much for having me on and asking such great questions. It was really, really good. And if any of your listeners want to get in touch with me, they can jump onto my website and there's a contact page there. And I personally answer all of those emails. So pop your details in, ask me any question. I'm always here to support your listeners.
To never miss an episode, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on whatever player you are using. If you are a regular listener and haven't done so already, I would greatly appreciate it if you could give this podcast a review or a rating. Two ways you could do this are through markgilberti.com/iTunes or markgilberti.com/Stitcher. That ends this episode. Don't forget, dream big, achieve greatness, and unlock your potential today. Want your tweets get retweeted to my 360,000 Twitter followers? All you have to do is say something nice about the Breakthrough Success podcast and include the link markgilberti.com/iTunes. Once you've posted that tweet, email me, mark@markgilberti.com, and I will retweet your tweet to my 360,000 followers. This podcast is a production done by Mark Gilberti. For more insights, head on over to markgilberti.com.